but it was also maybe one of the least challenging productions I've ever done because Marvel has built it in such a way that you have enough time to do all this in a way that you don't feel rushed. We had enough time to plan everything and work at a reasonable pace. We had enough time to shoot everything and work at, a very professional, slower sort of pace that's conducive to getting high quality material.
I saw Loki episode 4, season 2, and there's obviously a lot to unpack. And that final scene felt like kind of a season finale. So did you approach this episode differently compared to the other episodes you worked on this season?
Our goal this season from the outset was to try to make everything feel as similar to each other as possible. Every scene, every episode. We use the word homogenize. We introduced that word very early in prep, and we just kept saying it again and again and again, just to communicate how serious we were about it on so many different levels. The idea was to just make Loki in the best way possible, really just like one texture. Just you're seeing one thing the whole time, consistency, like a movie would be,
Right.
And I think in a lot of ways, episode 4, actually, in the entire season, because the whole thing is set in the TVA, which is kind of the home turf of the show, and where the style that we developed is most at home and most based around the aesthetics of, it's actually probably the best example in the whole season, including the last 2 episodes, of the style that we developed. There's so much integrity there. So what you're seeing when you see that it's a little different than the other episodes is actually it being the most perfect example of what we sort of wanted to set the baseline of the whole show at. It's like the definition of our house style is on display in that episode.
Of course. And another thing about that episode that was kind of cool to see, but also a little bit emotional, was Victor Timely kind of disintegrating as soon as he stepped outside. So can you talk a little bit about the process of filming that part of the scene?
Yeah. That temporal core gangway, that's what that set is called when they exit out of the block. The gangway was a lot of fun. It was on a big cavernous blue screen, massive stage. The gangway itself is much shorter than it appears in the show. It appears to be like a quarter mile long on screen, but it was actually 60 feet long. So the trick was, how do you shoot it in a way that it feels like that the module that launches the pod that launches the rockets is super far away when it's actually just right there. And it was, it involved a lot of trickery and bringing intermediate blue screens in and shooting things in different directions. But the challenging thing shooting on the gangway, and that timely sequence is no exception, was just the light. The light of the loom is supposed to be coming from really, really far away. At one point, it was said that the loom should appear to be 20,000 miles away. I don't know if that was where we landed. I don't know where the VFX department is saying it is now. It looks like it's maybe 100 miles away. But that loom was the motivating light source behind that scene, right? You really want to feel it. You want the light to be telling you, like, this is a dire situation. It's overheating. Everything's going to dissolve and melt down. And the problem was, as big as these sound stages are at Pinewood, they're still so much smaller than 20,000 miles long, So, and light, the way that light works is it has different characteristics that humans just have an innate understanding of from, our history through evolution as biological creatures. For survival reasons, we understand how light works. And the further a light source away it is completely different characteristics with relation to a subject, like a character, than it is when it's close. Because a close light immediately just falls off into shadow on the other side. And a close light gets dim if you just take a few steps away from it, and then it's super bright when you're next to it. A far away light, like the sun, think about the sun, no matter where you are in LA or wherever you are, the sun is equally bright, right? Because it's so far away, just exponentially, it kind of evens out. Our lights were really close. but they had to pretend like they were coming from a source really far away. So the challenge with that sequence and all of those sequences was how to do that. And the way that we did it was the characters, as they progressed down the gangway or away back towards the airlock, we had to dim that array of lights up and down so that it maintained a consistent exposure on the characters. Because if we hadn't dimmed it, they would have looked dark by the airlock and then really bright by the launcher. So it was kind of this dance of dimming up and down as they approached and fell away from it.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things that stand out, not with just episode 4, but just the entire series so far, is the attention to detail. Because of it being a Marvel project and being season 2 of a highly anticipated series, was this one of the more challenging projects you worked on?
Yeah, I think so. In some ways, it was the most challenging production, and in some ways, it was the least challenging production. I think it was incredibly challenging because of the scope of it. There were dozens of sets. They were all big. The stakes are high. It's the MCU. It's important. You got to get this right. People care about this, and there's big expectations. So doing a production on a massive scale and fulfilling people's expectations is enormously challenging in kind of like, just the burden that you feel on you sort of way, and the amount of work that needs to be done, the amount of time you have to spend in the office, the amount of conversations you have to have, the amount of illustrations and charts and diagrams, and just the scope of it is huge. But it was also maybe one of the least challenging productions I've ever done, because Marvel has built it in such a way that you have enough time to do all this in a way that you don't feel rushed. We had enough time to plan everything and work at a reasonable pace. We had enough time to shoot everything and work at, a very professional, slower sort of pace that's conducive to getting high quality material. We had the resources that we needed to execute what was on the page. Often you'll read a script and it'll say something and you'll be like, well, guys, if I ask for what it takes to do what's in the script, you'll tell me we can't afford it. That's most productions.
Yeah.
It's just a fundamental misunderstanding of how filmmaking should work. It's like whatever the script says, you need to budget for that. And Marvel does do a good job of that.
Of course,
so it makes it easy for people like me to do our jobs.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right about that. And we have time for one more question. There are 2 episodes remaining in Loki season 2. How would you best describe these last 2 episodes without giving anything away?
Spectacular. No, they're spectacular. Yeah. But the thing that you need to know about the last couple episodes that I'm so proud of, and I think everyone behind the scenes is super excited about the last couple episodes, and really what people are excited about isn't that they're spectacular. It's that they're emotional. These episodes are major heavy lifting storytelling episodes for character journeys. This is a show that understands its characters and loves its characters, and these last 2 episodes do a beautiful job of handling the characters and bringing their stories to not a close forever, but just bringing resolution to the story of this season, the second season, in a very meaningful and satisfying way.
I'm looking forward to these last 2 episodes. Isaac, thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate it, and continued success to you.